Because it sounds like to me that you had to find who you were, not who you didn't want to be, meaning that yes, you came from a broken home. Yes, you were having this relationship that was toxic. But it sounds like you were able to find yourself, Letitia, and say, I want to do better. I want to, as you put it, take back my power and I want to start living the life that one, I'm happy. Two, I can smile. And three, because I get this sense as soon as I started talking to you, I can show my big personality and have everyone come around me and enjoy it. Are these some of the things that you found along the way in becoming the woman that we all see now, which is definitely more of a finished product, but you still have your journey. So I want to say more of a refined version of yourself.
Yes, we're still. If I like watching, I don't know if you're familiar with this show called Forged in Fire, where they take, raw materials and create weapons. Oddly enough, knives and stuff. And I am in the the shaping phase, the polishing phase of my life. You know, a lot of times when I tell my story, people always ask me, "Oh, that's a lot. Like, how do you deal with it?" And I'm at a place now where I'm grateful for everything that I went through, because I realize now that everything that I went through has a purpose in my life and in where I'm heading and in my destination, my final destination. And I think that was part of my process, part of my healing. I think a lot of times we often get caught up on our narrative, caught up on our story, stuck in victimhood, or sometimes, we survive. But one thing that I struggle with is that I'm a survivor, right? I'm not a survivor. I'm a thriver. Because when you're stuck in that survival mood that we praise so much, there's only two things that you can do: fight or flight. That, you know what that equates to? Stress. I don't want to be sitting in stress. I want to use my story to elevate me, not to keep me stuck. And I think that's the difference. So I've learned to my story made me a survivor. My healing allowed me to thrive. And that is what I'm grateful for.
That's a beautiful way of putting it because there are times where and you've probably seen this in the people you've coached and I've seen it and sometimes maybe I even fell victim to it in my younger years is that it goes back to the phrase woe is me, I'm going through this, and then you just sit in the victim mindset and then everything seems to be someone else's issue. I'm going through this because of that. I'm going through this because of that. I'm going through this just because I woke up and the world hates me. Right? But life is going to be difficult and there's levels to it. The difficulty that I go through may not be your difficulty and vice versa. And our difficulty may not be someone else's, but we have a choice. And I think sometimes many of us forget that we do have a choice. We can either complain and do nothing, which is complacency, or we can say, how am I going to use this trial and tribulation to elevate me to the next level so the new me, the molded me, the sculpted me, the refined me doesn't go through it in the future. And on top of me not going through it in the future, I can help someone else not go through it at all. And I know for me, it took a lot of self reflection. It took a lot of conversations within myself. For you, Letitia, I know everything you went through and you said you had your breaking points, but I think you had a physical breaking point because you had the physical abuse. And I'm pretty sure there's other types of abuse as well, because it's not, for those listening, it's never only physical. There's always a person verbally, emotional, mental, things like that. So you've had the physical breaking
Physical is always
point.
the last part. Sorry.
Exactly. No, no worries. Exactly. So in your mindset, Letitia, when did you realize I have the courage now to stop this? I have the courage now to move on. Today is that day where I take back me.
I think when weapons were involved, when he stabbed me, I knew that if I continued this cycle, I would be dead. And I always say I believe truly that I was alive to make an impact. So for me, that was my breaking point. Realizing that it wasn't worth losing my life over. Most definitely made a big change for me. But I think that was one step which allowed me to get out of that negative environment. I needed to get out of the negative environment that was in my mind as well. And I mentioned being arrested. I think that time sitting in a jail cell when you're really faced with, like, is this what my life is? Like, I went from being in law enforcement to being arrested. Is this my life? And I had to take ownership in that moment. And like you said, a lot of us were like, where is me? It's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. And my rational self said, no one got you here but you. And being able to take ownership for that allowed me to change my perspective about a lot of things and allowed me to change my actions, which ultimately changed my life.
How difficult was that conversation to say that you want to take ownership? Because I know for many people, that's not even an easy conversation to think about having, let alone having.
My heart was broken having my mother sit across glass to have a conversation with me. Seeing the tears in her eyes, that was more painful than having the conversation with myself. But in that moment, seeing her disappointment, seeing her sadness, I had to go within and have that conversation. And, you know, I'm a person that previously that I had run away from a lot of stuff. I had nowhere to run. I was in the cell. It was just me and the toilet. I had to have this conversation with myself because I knew once I left, this could not be my life. You get to a place where it's just like, this is not it. And I had to make that decision.
And now that you've made that decision, do you find that it's easier for you to help others make that decision because you know exactly what now it takes to overcome not having a conversation that's going to be very self-reflective? Because Leticia, let's be honest, right? It's not easy. Like many of us aren't in a situation where we're looking through the glass of a visitor's in the jail to our mother or father or a loved one. Sometimes it's just us looking in the mirror. So do you find that you're able to help people better because of that specific type of circumstance that you're in?
I can relate to people better because of it. As far as helping others make that decision, I think ultimately it comes down to their decision. I am a vehicle of change for my clients. I allow them to move from A to B with these strategies that I use, but they're driving the vehicle. I'm just a passenger in the seat trying to help them not to make the wrong turn. But ultimately, if they make the wrong turn, it's because of the decisions that they make for themselves. And I think the people who are most successful when working with me are the ones that are ready for change. Not everybody's ready to reign, and that is the difference. Some people just have to have that absolute, rock bottom moment. And for me, it was jail. Have that rock bottom moment where they realize that something has to change. But as a coach and as someone who wants to see people win, I can't make the changes for them. They have to be ready themselves.